So there were no press screenings of the Harry Hill movie. I think it premiered last night. So this morning I went out to the View in Westfield to see it. And the general, and we don't have a clip either. The general rule is that if movies don't get press screened, and there's no reason why companies should have to press screen a movie to the press. I get a lot of stuff about this saying, if a movie isn't press screened, does that automatically mean it's bad? And you look, for example, at something like House at the End of the Street, which is the Jennifer Lawrence film that's directed by Mark Tonderai, he of Radio 1.
Used to be a Radio 1 presenter.
And it wasn't a terrible film at all. It was, it was a kind of moderate, mediocre, chiller, not great, but certainly not terrible. But they just decided that they didn't want to show it to the press. And the way it works is if they show you a film in advance, the sort of contract is you talk about it when it's out in the press, when it's out in theatres, therefore it raises the profile of it. It doesn't really matter whether you say you like it or not. What matters is that you talk about it. And I've always said this, bad reviews don't damage films. In the case of the Harry Hill movie, they've just simply taken a decision that they don't need the publicity of reviews. So I went to see it this morning. So the first thing to say is it's nothing like on the terrible scale of the Keith Lemon movie. I mean, the Keith Lemon movie, Keith Lemon the film, which came out, I think, about a year and about 14 months ago now, which I remember sitting in the cinema feeling unclean watching it. And I said that there was a point when I realised that if I stuck my hand down the side of the chair, there was like a 50p piece that I could, and I spent most of the film attempting to wriggle this 50p piece out of the side, the crisps and the dung in the side of the chair, because it was more savoury than watching what was going on the screen. In the case of Harry Hill, and I've got nothing against Harry Hill either, because I think Harry Hill's television programme can be very funny, and I think Harry Hill himself is very funny. Funnily enough, I was on the radio with him many years ago when he came onto the Mark Radcliffe show back in the years of the Graveyard Shift, and I think you were still doing the breakfast show at Radio 1, and I was doing that thing in Manchester. So I've got nothing against Harry Hill at all, and I've got nothing against the idea of Harry Hill, the movie. However, I have to report that I sat there in a screening room. There may be about, it was 10:30 in the morning, so obviously it's not going to be full. There was about 15, 20 people in the audience. The most obvious thing to report is that the complete lack of laughter, not just from me, and I didn't laugh at all, but the complete lack of laughter from everybody else. About 10 minutes, the story is that he's, for various complicated reasons, he thinks that he thinks that Abu is has only got a week to live, and so he decides to take him on a road trip to Blackpool, but they end up at a place called Blackpool, and then they have to go to Blackpool. So it's a road trip, and it's, him and his nan, and they go off together, and en route they have sort of surreal adventures. They have an undersea world bit in which he falls in love with the daughter of the king of the Shell people, and there's all the usual stuff that you get from Harry Hill, but it's up there on the big screen. And as I was watching it, at no point did I feel did I have any of that kind of negativity that I had towards Keith Lemon, because I thought it was a really horrible film. But what I did think was, it is funny how small screen comedy works on the small screen, and when you take it and transpose it up into the big screen, it's like watching an articulated lorry trying to do a three-point turn. There's something about the mechanism of cinema which is so much weightier, so much just to do with the scale, that all that stuff that Harry Hill does, the asides, the strange little surreal interludes, the puppets, the catchphrases, all that stuff is perfectly suited to the medium of television, on which he does brilliantly, and in which he is, and quite rightly so, very successful. In the case of the film, it was just like going behind a tapestry and seeing all the bits hanging out from behind it. It was suddenly you became crushingly aware of the mechanism. The absence of laughter was a big problem. And about 10 minutes into the film, somebody about 3 rows in front of me, this was in the Westwood, got out their mobile phone, which now mobile phones are the size of small televisions, right? And although they were like 3 or 4 rows in front of me, I could see exactly what was going on their mobile phone, which lit them up like those super troopers in front of in front of Mann's Chinese Theatre. And for the rest of the film, they Googled this and that. They weren't even doing emails. They were just generally having a bit of a Google. And that sort of said, okay, fine. So here's your problem. Your problem is, firstly, people aren't laughing. Secondly, even people who kind of like the TV show aren't laughing. And thirdly, somebody who's actually paid to come and see this, and it was 10 quid a throw, is just Googling their way through it. So I have no problem with
Not necessarily a representative sample.
No, absolutely not. But I didn't laugh once. And if Harry Hill is on television for 3 minutes, I'll have laughed 2 or 3 times, because I think he's funny. Ted Chippington aside, I think he's funny. But the film wasn't, and it's a shame because it was, you know, even when, you know, when Abu gets, you know, nuclear reacted and it's kind of Godzilla references and all that stuff, it wasn't funny. And the best way of describing it is like watching an articulated lorry attempting to do a 3-point turn. It's just not small enough.